Welcome to the Reinvented Life with Pamela Chanel David. Do you want to step up your game? Pursue your dreams. Be the best version of yourself. The Reinvented Life is here to help. The Reinvented Life is about courage. It's about staying relevant. It takes grit. It defies gravity. It's about taking inventory of where you are today and where you want to go. Embrace change. Make things possible and reinvent your life. Call in with questions at 888-994-4995. Now, it's time to reinvent your life with Pamela Chanel.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Reinvented Life. Welcome to November. I cannot believe we are already at this time of year. I hope everyone had a safe Halloween. If you have children, I hope they had a great time. And just celebrating now into officially the holiday season. So everyone knows that the Reinvented Life, we are all about interviewing, talking with, connecting with people that are in the phase of reinventing their life. And at the core of the word reinvention is the word invent. And to invent is to create. So I could not be more excited to bring this guest on this morning, who has created and is just launching on Amazon her book, Dr. Erika Monasch. And I will say this is one of the most personally gratifying shows I've ever done. Erika is my cousin. I could not be more proud of her and excited, Erika, to have you on the show and to talk about this yet wonderful and great next accomplishment of yours. So welcome, Erika, to the Reinvented Life.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and honored to be a guest on your show.
Oh, I am absolutely thrilled. So excited about what you're up to. So to begin, just to let our listeners and let our viewers know a little bit about you, can you share a little bit about your background and where you are today in terms of your studies? To say Dr. Erika Monasch just is so exciting to me. So let me.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming.
Yes.
So I'm currently a resident pediatrician. I'm in my first year of residency, which is my intern year. And prior, I'm right now at Stanford Healthcare. Prior, I was at UC Davis for medical school, and I did my bachelor's at UCLA. So it's really exciting to finally have the MD behind my name so I can finally start practicing medicine.
I bet it's incredible. And during your studies, I know that you had a chance to go abroad and really share in communities outside of the U.S. a lot of your skills and help in a lot of ways. So I'm sure people would find that interesting to hear about those experiences, both in high school and in college.
Sure. So my very first experience abroad was when I was in high school, between my junior and senior year of high school. I did a program called Amigos de las Americas, where I stayed in Panama for 6 weeks in a very rural community with a host family. And this was a immersion experience for high schoolers that involves community development, and part of my project was health promotion. So I helped lead workshops daily for children at the local school that focused on environmental and public health. And essentially we taught them how to stay healthy just through a bunch of different fun games and activities. And that experience, like I said, was my first experience abroad, and it really highlighted for me the disparities that exist in child health worldwide, and gave me a lens to be able to better see those disparities that exist in our very own communities as well. So I was very much inspired by that trip, and that initiated my whole journey into medicine and also future experiences in global health as well. So I, in college, went to Nicaragua and helped with some community development projects in local homes in a rural community. And then in medical school, I was able to do an international rotation in Roatan, Honduras.
Fantastic. And in all of that, in your studies, was it always pediatrics that stood out for you in terms of where you wanted to lead your medical
I went into medicine for pediatrics. I grew up with a lot of different experiences working with children and knew I loved it and wanted to make a career out of caring for children. It started because my siblings are a lot younger than me, and so I helped take care of them growing up. And then I also taught youth gymnastics from a very young age, and then had the experience in Panama working with young children. So health was something I was interested in, child development, and overall just caring for children. So I knew going into medical school that pediatrics was my goal, but I wanted to make sure along the way that there wasn't something else that interested me. And, there were a lot of different specialties that I was interested in, but I didn't feel as home in any of my rotations outside of pediatrics.
And so pediatrics obviously is so hits a chord with so many people, because when you're dealing with children, you're not just dealing with children, you're dealing with an entire family, I'm sure. And just knowing you as well as I do, there could not be anyone that I would, if I had young children today, want them to be in the hands of. Just knowing it's beyond your medical training. It has a lot to do, I'm sure, with just your feelings about families. And I'd love, before we get into this exciting new launch of yours, to share with people what it's like not just to care for children, but to care for their entire families.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's one of the really special things about pediatrics, and that's one of the things that made me choose it because you really, like you said, you're taking care of more than just your patient who's the child, you're taking care of their entire family. And a lot of times parents are very stressed out in the healthcare setting, especially if it's a more emergency setting or if their child is admitted to the hospital. It's a very stressful situation and emotions definitely run high. And so it really takes some grace at times and, you know, some patience as well to make sure that everybody is communicating well with each other and on the same page. And sometimes, families are the best part of my day, seeing how wonderful their interactions are with their kids. And then sometimes families can make patient care very challenging, but I always have to keep in the back of my mind that, parents and guardians and family members are always acting out of the best interest of their child, or at least I like to think so. And so, even when there are challenging situations or people are frustrated or upset, it's important to remember that we're all there because we care about the health of their child and want them to get better.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And you bring up such an important word, excuse me, in the world today, which is grace. I believe that word, how compassionate one is, how much grace that one extends to others, not just in the medical setting, but in the world today, is so greatly needed. And that is what brings so much hope to people. And again, on this show, on the Reinvented Life, we want to take a look at, in all aspects, in all fields, what people are doing to bring grace, to bring hope, reinventing situations into kinder, more compassionate environment. So again, I can't imagine anyone being more well suited for that. than yourself. And it
Thank
actually
you.
is a good segue into the excitement of you launching a book, because if I understand correctly, the book that has just come out on Amazon that you are just launching has to do with just that. So I'd love everyone, if you're watching this, to see the cover of this book so you get a feel for what it is. There it is, Josie Wears a Mask. And to start with, what's the premise of the book and what gave you the impetus to write this book?
Sure. So the premise of the book is that there is a young owl, Josie, who is super excited because her cousin is coming to visit and is going to take her to the park. But once he gets there, he has something new that's covering his beak, and she's really unsure as to what it is. She hasn't seen something before, and it turns out to be a mask. And so, she wants to go to the park with him, but he tells her that she needs to wear a mask in order to come because they need to protect themselves. And there's a lot of hesitancy involved, and her mother's there too. And with the help of her mom and her cousin, they're able to describe the importance of masks and how they don't have to be scary. And um, they're able to, go up to the park together, enjoy their time, and uh, stay safe at the same time. So this book was inspired by my nephew, who's now 4 years old, but he was 2 at the time when I came up with the book idea. And he was going to go to daycare for the first time. And this was, back in the height of the pandemic when masks were required for everyone 2 and above if you were out in a public setting, and especially in a school setting or a healthcare setting. And it was just really scary for him. I was visiting one time and we were trying to encourage him to wear a mask so that he could get ready for going to daycare or preschool for the first time. And it was a whole big to do, with a lot of tears. He was very scared. And, uh, I'm going to be honest that we were trying to, bribe him with snacks, with, a little bit of screen time, because, above all, his health was going to come first. And just seeing the fear in his eyes of having something unusual covering his face, was really the inspiration for the book, because I had always known that I wanted to write a children's book. I had thought I wanted it to be health related, but I never had decided, what is this topic going to be? So having seen, the fear in my nephew's eyes and wanting to make this not a scary thing for other kids is what really inspired this book.
Right. And it's written, I mean, just the cover itself, you can see is in such a friendly way. And I think that must be a key to it, is with young children. I think the mask can represent almost something that's standoffish or scary to them. They're not used to seeing things cover a face. And I would imagine, even though that came at the height of the pandemic, there's many other situations today, flu seasons and other things I know you talk about, that the importance of that mask is still there.
Yeah, absolutely. There aren't the same masking mandates that there were at the height of the pandemic, but there are mandates coming out in a lot of counties, especially throughout California, that masks are going to be required, especially for healthcare professionals in healthcare settings, some for patients as well in healthcare settings. So there still are instances where children are going to need to wear masks. And even if it's not required, many families will still choose to wear them. So, and at the same time, kids grow up so fast. So the kids that are going to need to start wearing them for the first time are not kids who were also wearing them several years ago, or even in the past year when masks were required. So, it's something that is timeless, because we're always going to have respiratory infections going around, unfortunately. And so there's always the opportunity to be safer in these settings or protect yourself by wearing a mask.
So I would imagine that your encouragement is not just for parents, but it sounds like teachers, healthcare providers, anyone, to get access to this book, because it can be sort of lessen that blow for the younger children. Where do you envision this going? I personally would love if there's teachers listening to this, or if there's people listening to this that know teachers, or again childcare providers, to start getting this book and reading it and getting the children familiar with this. Where do you envision this going? What would you love to see with this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would love, like you said, for a whole broad audience to see this book. I think it is relevant in many settings, and anyone who has a child in their life, whether that be a child, a grandchild, a niece or a nephew, someone who they're teaching, or someone that they're caring for in some capacity, would benefit from this book.
Beautiful, beautiful. And because the show is about constant change, is about reinvention, is about keeping moving the needle forward, I'm sure this perspective, if you look historically to children's books, they're usually, if I'm not mistaken, focused around entertainment. So I love what you've taken in terms of something that has such a teachable moment in it and created it in an entertaining way. How did the formatting of the book for you really go?
What do you mean by that?
The formatting, in other words, how did you vision telling this story? So
Mm,
you had your concept,
yeah.
but you wanted to present it in an entertaining, in a light way. And I'd love to hear how you came up with how you wanted to tell the story.
Absolutely. So, a couple of elements that I definitely wanted to include. One was I wanted it to be a rhyming book. I've always loved children's rhyming books, and I think they're very engaging for children because there's a specific tone and cadence to the way that rhymings come across when they're done well. And so I thought that would be a great way to engage children as they were learning about mask wearing. And then I also was hoping that it would be a baby animal book because I think that baby animals are very relatable for young children. I see children come in all the time with their to the hospital with their stuffed animals. They love their little shows and books that are all related to baby animals. And then I specifically chose the owl because growing up, we had a house that had a gigantic oak tree outside, and the oak tree had a lot of different animal friends inside the tree, including owls who I would hear hooing at night. And so the owl is just symbolic for me of my childhood from the oak tree in our house that was outside of our house. And so that's where that is why I chose the symbol of the owl, because for me it's very much representative of my childhood. And so I also made the setting inside of an oak tree because there are so many different animals and creatures that live inside an oak tree. And so, if ever in the future I wanted to do an additional book, there are many other characters and friends that could come into the picture.
You when you bring up future books, that's what this really lends itself to. I keep thinking about it. It almost could become a fun series eventually, and the different animals that reside in that oak tree would be very natural for that. So you and I hadn't talked about that, but that's something I've been thinking about when thinking about this book. What a wonderful series it could be, and a group of books that children start to feel very comfortable with. I think that's more important than anything, is the comfort level that the children have, and that would be true both in any kind of school setting, again, healthcare setting, or anywhere a child would be. I can see them just cozying up with this book, hopefully at home. So I again encourage, and available now, link has just gone live on Amazon. Listeners, parents, grandparents, anyone at all, neighbors, anyone at all that has young children in their life or know people that could affect young children, to purchase this book and start getting this wonderful message out there about prevention in whatever level it can be, even in with young children, and them learning that they can, by doing things, even at a very young age, make a difference with their health. So that's very exciting.
Yeah.
We will be wrapping up here, unfortunately, in a couple of minutes. But as far as, is there anything that you would say for children in general, a trend in health today in terms of prevention? What are you seeing in the work you're doing?
Yeah, so the past couple of weeks I've been working in the pediatric emergency department, and we're seeing lots and lots of respiratory viruses. So many of the children I'm seeing are coming in with influenza, with COVID, lots of RSV, and other viruses as well. So just it's super important, as always, to have good hand hygiene, teaching kids early on how to wash their hands. And even a lot of adults don't properly wash their hands. So just making sure you do a good job of that, making sure you get some rest when you're not feeling well, and trying to stay away from others. And, that's one thing I would say. And so that really goes along with the idea of protecting yourself, wearing a mask. The other thing I would say is I'm seeing a lot of mental health crises in children and teens. And so it's so important to find those things that, really are your strengths, and to find the things that have your list of things that you can do when you're in a time of, deep distress. And so that you have those resources available to you. And there are always helplines, there are always emergency counselors available, and plenty of services at your general pediatrician's office as well.
So it sounds like really the encouragement of these resources is something a parent or any child care provider um, can take advantage of today. And I know more and more that's such a bigger part of general preventative health is education. And so I feel there's
Yeah.
a very fine line in terms of the providing aspect of what especially a pediatrician would do, and the educational part of it combined. So
Yeah, absolutely.
before
And,
we,
I think a lot of times, oh, sorry.
yeah, go please.
Oh, I was just going to say a lot of times that resources are unknown or not accessed until it's too late. So, if you're seeing signs of anything, whether that be getting sick or being ill with a mental health condition, know what your resources are in your back pocket before it becomes too late.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you, is the awareness level. And I'm sure that's a big part of medicine going forward, is how to heighten that awareness level so that it gives a message, again, not just of prevention, but about general health. And I love that you're mentioning mental health as well, because unfortunately, in the condition the world's in today, I would imagine you would see, as a pediatrician, even more cases in younger children of issues affected by mental health.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are seeing things in really young kids, and a lot of it stems from um, social media use, like excessive screen time, and also just, the changing environment of today associated with so many factors. And I think the pandemic was um, a big event in so many lives across the world that caused or some feelings of isolation that then led
Mm.
to worsening mental health for many.
Yes, that isolation at all levels of life, from young children all the way through very mature seniors have been affected by this isolation, and just the change and the shift that all that took. So having you as a provider is just bringing hope, is bringing light, and I cannot thank you enough for bringing this book to the world. We'll put it up there one more time. And Josie Wears a Mask. People can find it right now on Amazon. Encourage, please, anyone you know out there that is in touch with children, educating children, caring for children, in any way, get this book, because it's such a beautiful way to present such a really serious message, but done in such a kind way. Thank you for being on here. I know your schedule is out of control, really. It's amazing the hours you keep, what you do. But thank you, not just for being on here, but for what you're doing and the beauty and the joy that you're continuing to bring into the world.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate being on the show today. If my book makes an impact in one child's life, that will make everything worth it for me. So I'm really excited that it's out in the world now and that people have access to it on Amazon.
Well, you're making an impact, and I would dare to say only the beginning of the impact that you're going to be making on this world, and changing lives one person at a time. That's the essence of this show. That's the essence of what we can do, is make a positive contribution and make an impact. So you are out there doing it. Excited to hear how the book does, if there's future books behind it, and to join this series and just keep doing what you're doing. You are bringing life and light to so many.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for listening, for viewing to the Reinvented Life. We feel it's very important here to bring people that are doing things in this world that are making, as I said, a positive impact forward. Look forward to seeing you next week on the Reinvented Life, again on Wednesday. Have a beautiful day and the beautiful beginning of a new month.
Thank you for tuning in to The Reinvented Life with Pamela Chanel David. Tune in each week so we can work and grow together to become the best version of ourselves. Keep striving, keep dreaming, keep working, and embrace change. You may contact Pamela Chanel at info@thereinventedlife.com.